Facebook is in the news, from political policies to potentially life-saving assistance during a disaster. And joining me now is Ian Sherr, CNET editor-at-large. And Ian, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's always good when you come around. Okay, we have a lot to cover today. So Facebook just rolled out a new tool, and that's to help those in a real-life crisis. What's that about?
Well, what they want to do is that they really want to be able to help people when they are feeling really down, when things are rough. And this is something that Facebook kind of has an unusual kind of insight into our lives about, right? They can see what we post. They can see what we're telling friends. Their computers understand a lot about us. They even think they know our politics, which you can learn what they think about your politics. We actually have a guide on CNET. But what they want to do now is they want to kind of help nudge us in the right directions when things are really tough. So they've actually started doing this in a number of ways. One of the things that they've done is that if someone feels like a friend might be in danger of hurting themselves, they actually have tools that will immediately show up to help you. And they're starting to kind of try and push that on people who they think are in trouble as well.
Okay, it seems like a very helpful tool. So you mentioned politics and you mentioned Facebook. So we know that in an exclusive interview on CBS this morning, Mark Zuckerberg actually defended the company once again. He's digging in his heels when it comes to his policy on political ads.
Yeah, it's a little interesting to see him kind of really push this idea of basically that politicians can say whatever they want on Facebook. And his argument is that people have a right to learn this stuff, right? It reveals more about your politicians, whether they're telling the truth or not. And the trouble is that a lot of people say, well, if people are able to lie with abandon and on any ad they want, are they at one point helping to send more bad information out into the public instead of trying to say, look, here are our rules. There are standards by which you should have to reach. Even normal ads have certain standards they have to follow, right? You can't lie about your products. Right. So why is it okay to lie in a political ad?
Okay, but he's saying, well, it's up to the users to decide what's true, what's not.
He doesn't want to be the arbiter of truth.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Facebook just made it a lot easier to transfer photos.
Yeah, so one of the other things, it's a whole Facebook day.
I know,
one of the other things going on is that there's this program out there about data portability. And this is a new thing you're going to hear more and more from the tech industry. But the argument is that we shouldn't be beholden to one of them and have our stuff locked away, which all of us like that idea, right? So Facebook has a ton of our photos. They have a ton of our videos. So why not make it so that if I say, hey, I don't want to be on Facebook anymore, I can push a button and send it all over to Google. So now they have this tool. They're going to start it with Google. They're going to roll it out for other ones as well, where you can literally press a button and send a copy of all your photos and videos to your Google Photos if you want. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. A number of congressmen and Senator Mark Warner, actually, who's a big tech talker, he has been pushing for this idea because he says this could actually help with the monopoly situation, right? And the idea that these companies have too much power. If you take away this data control they have, which is a lot of where their power comes from, maybe it'll help.
Okay. Well, Facebook, we cover Facebook, I think.
Yes.
Let's move on to Tinder now, because I thought this was pretty interesting. A new report says that Tinder is letting known sex offenders on the app.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting issue. What happens is that the company that controls Tinder, they have a number of dating apps, right? Some of them you pay for, some of them you don't. And they've admitted that the ones that you don't pay for, they don't really monitor that much, which kind of makes sense, but it raises these huge concerns about how safe it is on these services, right? And so the idea now is basically, well, I guess I have to pay for Match if I want to guarantee that I'm not going to suddenly end up with a sex offender, which is a very scary proposition.
It really is.
So I'm curious to see, first off, how this all responds out, right? And what this kind of turns into. But secondly, it raises all these questions about these free services that we all have, social networks, TikTok, all these things. How controlled are they? How carefully are these services being monitored? And are these companies looking out for our best interests?
Right, and our safety.
And our safety. And at the moment, Tinder at least has made it clear that maybe not as much as we thought they were.
Oh boy, that is scary. Okay, well, finally, the top smartphone maker in China says it's starting to build phones now without U.S. technology.
Yeah, and this is a huge thing. So Huawei, which is a company that the White House is not a fan of at all, right? They've been trying to ban it from the United States. There's been talk about how Google's software isn't allowed to be run in their stuff. Well, now they have been trying to build their own technology. They've been so reliant on U.S. technology for so long. And they say that they've started building some of their stuff without any U.S. technology at all, software, hardware, anything. And this is a big move. This could start a Chinese independence movement where Chinese technology doesn't rely on U.S. ideas to work. And that could be both good for China, but also bad for internet in general, because China's a very different country. They have different laws. They have different ways that they handle human rights, free speech. So what will it mean if their own technology becomes a standard that people work around?
Boy, we'll see how all of that plays out. Ian, I always love when you come. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And